The descent module shuddered as it broke through Neridian Prime's upper atmosphere, its hull glowing cherry red against the amber sky. Inside, Soren Vale gripped the overhead strap, his ill-fitting technician uniform hanging loosely around his frame. Around him, warriors of the Galactic Coalition's 7th Interstellar Strike Force stood in perfect formation, their exo-armor gleaming under the harsh interior lights. "Look at our new tech specialist," whispered Jace Daravan, a veteran with an augmented eye that glowed faintly blue. "Coalition must be desperate if they're sending desk jockeys to the frontier now." Soren kept his gaze forward, ignoring the comment. His hands that had once commanded elite squads through the bloodiest campaigns in Coalition history now clutched a standard-issued datapad with deliberate awkwardness. Every fiber of his being wanted to stand at attention, but instead, he maintained his slouch, a physical reminder of his cover identity: Technician 3rd Class Soren Vale, nobody assigned to Commander Nix. Thorne's elite squad due to personnel shortages. The truth was considerably more complex. The module touched down with a bone-jarring thud. The landing ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss, revealing Neridian Prime's rust-colored landscape and 3 suns hanging low on the horizon. Commander Nix Thorne stepped forward, her silhouette sharp against the alien sunlight, tall and imposing, with obsidian skin that absorbed light rather than reflected it. She wore her authority-like armor. Her head was shaved on one side, revealing an intricate pattern of neural implants that connected her to the squad's tactical network. "Form up," she ordered, her voice cutting through the wind that swept across the landing platform. "Daravan, perimeter scan. Ren, equipment check. Communications link to command." She paused, her silver eyes finally landing on Soren. "And you, technician, ... Try not to get yourself killed before we reach the outpost. I've filed 3 requisition forms for a proper specialist. Until then, you'll have to do." Soren nodded meekly. "Yes, Commander." Thorne's lip curled slightly. "You'll carry the auxiliary power cells. Manual transport. The grav sleds are needed for weapons. The power cells weighed 75 kilograms each. A deliberate test or punishment." "Yes, Commander," he repeated, moving toward the cargo hold where the cells were stored. As he passed her, Thorne leaned in slightly. "I don't know what strings you pulled to get assigned to my unit, Technician, but frontier deployment isn't a career advancement strategy. It's a death sentence for the unprepared." If only she knew. Soren had been on Neridian Prime before 5 years ago, when the planet was still disputed territory. Back when he was Captain Soren Vale of Coalition Special Operations before the mission that had officially ended his life. Now he was back. Under deep cover, tracking a traitor within the Coalition's highest ranks. Someone was selling classified planetary defense codes to the Meridian Collective. An intelligence suggested the leak originated from Commander Thorne's inner circle. Soren lifted the first power cell, deliberately letting his arms shake slightly. Under the weight, he caught Isha Nomari, watching him, the squad's communications specialist. With copper-toned skin and eyes that missed nothing. Unlike the others, her expression held curiosity rather than contempt. As they moved out across the rust-colored plains, Soren cataloged everything: positions, behaviors, relationships. Commander Thorne led from the front, spine straight, every step purposeful. Behind her walked her second-in-command, Major Cade Veron, a man whose service record showed impressive combat statistics, but suspicious gaps in deployment history. The weight of the power cell dug into Soren's shoulders as they trudged across the alien landscape. The pain was real, but it was nothing compared to what he'd endured during his years in special operations. Deception was its own kind of burden, one he'd carry as long as necessary. The second sun of Neridian Prime crested the horizon, bathing the caravan in harsh orange light. Soren's shoulders burned beneath the weight of the power cells, sweat trickling down his spine and soaking through his thin technician's uniform. They had been marching for 6 hours across the barren landscape, each step kicking up plumes of rust-colored dust. Major Veron called back, his voice laced with mockery. "Thought you might have collapsed a kilometer back." Soren adjusted his grip on the power cell. "Still here, sir," he replied. Voice deliberately strained, Commander Thorn had set a punishing pace, pushing the squad toward the mountain range that loomed in the distance. The mission briefing had been sparse: secure an abandoned coalition outpost on the planet's far side, assess its viability for reactivation. Standard procedure, except for the unusual security clearance requirements and the encrypted data packet Thorn carried. Break for 5, Thorn announced suddenly, raising her fist. The squad halted immediately, warriors dropping into defensive positions with practiced efficiency. Soren carefully lowered the power cell, rolling his shoulders to ease the cramping muscles. As he straightened, a low growl emanated from behind him. He turned slowly to face Krell, Commander Thorn's neural-bonded creature. The beast stood as tall as Soren's chest, 6 eyes arranged in a semicircle across its broad skull, pupils contracting in the bright sunlight. Its hide resembled burnished copper, textured with scale-like plates that rippled with each breath. The creature approached, nostrils flaring as it scented him. Coalition forces had begun using these bioengineered beasts 3 years ago after Soren's death. This was his first close encounter with one. Careful, Isha warned, appearing at his side. Krell only responds to the commander. He's been known to take fingers from those who get too close. Soren remained still as the creature circled him, its powerful muscles coiling beneath its hide. He noted the neural interface port embedded at the base of its skull connection. Point to Thorn's implants. He's curious about you, Isha continued, her voice low. That's unusual. Typically, he ignores support staff. Across the camp, Thorn watched the interaction with narrowed eyes, her fingers twitching slightly silent commands to the beast through their neural link. Krell ignored the commands, continuing to study Soren with unnerving intensity. Perhaps. He senses my fear, Soren offered, maintaining his cover. Isha smiled slightly. Perhaps. She handed him a water container. Drink. We've got another 8 hours before we reach the canyon pass. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Soren noticed the slight darkening of her cheeks before she turned away. As he drank, memories surfaced unbidden. Another mission, another planet. The weight in his arms had been different than a stasis pod, containing what remained of his teammate Darien. The extraction had gone wrong. 3 squads lost, and Soren left for dead in the aftermath. The perfect opportunity for Central Intelligence to give him a new purpose. A ghost could move where the living could not. On your feet, Thorn called. Tech, get that power cell. We're moving. Soren hoisted the cell once more, settling its weight against his back. As they resumed their march, he noticed Isha falling into step beside him. You've been watching the commander, she observed quietly, studying her. Soren tensed slightly. Just trying to stay out of her way. No, Isha replied. It's more than that. You watch her like someone assessing a target, not avoiding one. Dangerous perception. Soren needed to be more careful. Hard not to watch someone who holds your life in their hands, he deflected. Isha studied him for a moment longer. Your hands, she said finally. They don't match your file. Excuse me? Your hands? They're calloused in patterns consistent with weapons training, not technical work. She stepped closer, her voice dropping further. And you carry that weight all wrong for someone untrained. You distribute it too effectively.
Hey.
Before Soren could respond, a shrill alarm cut through the air. Thorn's voice rang out. Contact at the ridge! Defensive positions! The first shot streaked across the sky like angry red stars. The squad had taken shelter in a shallow ravine after repelling the attack primitive guerrilla fighters. Remnants of the Meridian Resistance. Sunset cast long shadows across their temporary camp as Soren worked methodically to repair damaged equipment, his fingers moving with practiced precision despite his supposed lack of combat experience. You took down 2 of them, Jay Staravan said, watching Soren reassemble a plasma rifle. Not bad for a technician. Soren kept his expression neutral. He'd slipped during the firefight, muscle memory taking over when a fighter had charged his position. The takedown had been too smooth, too professional. Lucky shot, he murmured, focusing on the weapon components. That wasn't luck, Commander. Thorn interjected, approaching silently. That was training. She crouched beside him, silver eyes studying his face. The question is, what kind of training does a tech specialist receive that teaches close-quarters combat techniques used exclusively by special forces? The squad grew quiet, attention shifting to their exchange. Soren set down the rifle parts carefully. My father was military. Taught me a few things. Your file says your father was a hydroponic engineer on Titan Station. Chill ran through him. She'd been investigating him. Stepfather, he amended smoothly. Biological father was in the service. Died when I was young. Thorn's expression remained unreadable, but Krell approached, moving to stand between them. The creature lowered its head, 6 eyes blinking in sequence as it studied Soren. Then, to everyone's shock, it pushed its massive skull against Soren's hand. That's impossible, Major Varen whispered. The neural bond doesn't allow for secondary connections. Thorn's face hardened, the implants at her temple pulsing as she sent commands to the creature. Krell winced but didn't move away from Soren. Say something. About you is affecting my neural link, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. And I intend to find out what. She stood abruptly. Perimeter check, everyone. Nomari, stay with our technician. Make sure he doesn't display any more unexpected talents. As the others dispersed, Isha settled beside Soren, her shoulder touching his. You're not what you appear to be, she said simply. Soren continued working on the rifle. Few of us are. True. Enough. She pulled a small device from her pocket, activating it with a flick of her wrist. Signal scrambler. We can talk freely for about 2 minutes. Soren's hand stilled. Dangerous to carry unauthorized equipment on a coalition mission. Dangerous to be a deep cover operative in Commander Thorn's squad, she countered. Intelligence sent me to watch your back. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. You're my handler. Support operative. I was inserted 3 months ago. She glanced toward Thorn, who stood at the perimeter with Varen. We've confirmed. The commander isn't the leak. It's someone close to her, accessing classified material through her authorization codes. Varen, Soren suggested, watching the Major's body language as he spoke with Thorn. Possibly, or it could be Dervin. His cybernetic eye has been transmitting. To an unknown receiver, Saran absorbed this information, recalculating his approach. The commander's suspicious of me. Yes, Isha agreed, her hand briefly touching his. But that might work in our favor. Keep her focus on you while I access her command logs. The touch lingered, unexpectedly warm. When Soren met her gaze, he saw something beyond professional. Interest. Be careful, he warned. Thorn's creature has formed some kind of connection with me. It might complicate things. Or provide the perfect distraction, Isha replied, deactivating the scrambler as footsteps approached. That night, as Soren took his watch shift, Thorn appeared beside him, her silhouette sharp against the starlit. Sky, tomorrow we enter the canyon, she said without preamble. It's the most dangerous part of our journey. I'll be ready, Commander. She studied him silently. Will you? Because I think you've been ready since before you joined my squad. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. I don't know your game technician, but I know a predator when I see one. The accusation hung between them, neither a question nor a threat, a simple acknowledgement of a truth they both recognized. Sometimes, Soren replied carefully, the most dangerous predator is the one you invite into your home. Thorn's implants pulsed once, and somewhere in the darkness Krell growled. In response, the canyon walls rose like ancient sentinels on either side, narrowing the squad's path to a treacherous single-file route. Overhead, Neridian Prime's smallest sun cast weak light that barely penetrated the depths, leaving pools of shadow where anything might hide. Soren no longer carried the power cell. It had been transferred to a grav sled after the previous day's attack. Commander Thorn had made the adjustment without explanation, her eyes never meeting his during the order. Ow. He walked in the middle of the formation, positioned between Isha and Jace, his hand resting casually on his sidearm. Something's wrong, Isha murmured, her communication implant scanning frequencies. Now too much electromagnetic interference in this canyon. Mineral deposits in the rock, Major Varen suggested from ahead. Common on this planet, no, Thorn said sharply, raising her fist to halt the squad. This is artificial. Krell paced nervously at her side, its hide rippling with tension. The creature's 6 eyes scanned the canyon walls. Pupils dilated to their maximum in the dim light. Soren felt it too, the subtle wrongness in the air. The prickling sensation at the back of his neck that had saved his life countless times before. He moved his hand from his sidearm to his combat knife, preferring the silent option. The attack came without warning. Shadows detached from the canyon walls, humanoid figures in adaptive camouflage that bent light around their forms. Not Meridian Resistance fighters this time, these were collective assassins, elite killers with technology that matched or exceeded Coalition standards. Ambush. Thorin shouted, her neural implants flaring bright as she established combat links with the squad. Defensive circle. The formation broke apart as plasma fire erupted from multiple directions. Soren dropped to one knee, drawing his sidearm and firing with precision that no technician should possess. 3 attackers fell before they could reach the squad's position. Through the chaos, spotted Major Varen deliberately moving away from the defensive circle, using the confusion to separate himself from the others. When the Major's hand went to his ear, not to his Coalition cum unit, but to a secondary device hidden beneath his collar, Soren had his confirmation. The traitor revealed, Commander. Soren called out, but his warning was lost in the firefight. Across the canyon floor, Ishe was pinned down behind a boulder, 3 assassins closing in on her position. Thorn had released Krell from its restraints, a creature tearing through attackers with savage efficiency. But it couldn't reach Isha in time. Soren broke cover, sprinting toward her position. He moved with the fluid grace of a combat veteran. Every step precise, every shot calculated. The facade of the awkward technician had been completely abandoned. Technician, return to formation. Thorn's voice cut through his cum. That's an order. He ignored her, sliding into position beside Isha, just as plasma fire shattered the rock above them. Took you long enough? She gasped, blood seeping from a wound in her shoulder. Traffic was terrible, he replied, applying a pressure seal to her injury. Varen's making his move. He's the leak. Isha nodded grimly, confirmed. I traced the transmission signals. He's been selling nav codes for months. A massive explosion rocked the canyon, showering them with debris. Through the dust, Soren saw Thorn standing alone, separated from the rest of the squad as the canyon wall collapsed between them. Krell was nowhere to be seen. Varen's voice came over the cum. All units, Commander Thorn is down. Fall back to position Alpha. Repeat, Commander is down. Squad hesitated, confusion evident in their scattered responses. Negative. Thorn's voice cut through, strained but commanding. Maintain position. Varen is compromised. She's delirious. From injury, Varen countered smoothly. Her neural implants are malfunctioning. Fall back. That's an order. Act. Soren made his decision. Stay here, he told Isha, pressing his sidearm into her hand. What are you doing? We're grabbing his wrist. Something stupid, he replied, then leaned forward and kissed her briefly. Always wanted to do that during a firefight. Before she could respond, he was moving, sprinting toward the collapsed section of canyon. He found Krell trapped beneath. Fallen rock, the creature struggling weakly, its neural interface damaged. When their eyes met, Soren felt something unexpected. Recognition, connection. Without hesitation, he began freeing the beast, leveraging rocks away from its massive form. I need your help, he told the creature, working quickly. Your commander needs you. As the last boulder was pushed aside, Krell rose unsteadily. Soren placed his hand on the creature's neural port, feeling a strange tingling sensation as some kind of connection formed between them. Find her, he whispered. Together, they moved through the chaos of battle toward where Thorn fought alone. Against 3 assassins, her armor scorched and damaged. She turned at their approach, eyes widening at the sight of Soren and Krell moving in perfect synchronization. Impossible, she breathed. Actually, Soren replied, drawing his combat knife. Just highly improbable. With Krell at his side, they tore through the remaining attackers, fighting with the coordinated precision of warriors who had trained together for years rather than days. When the last assassin fell, Soren turned to find Thorn staring at him, her weapon raised, not at the enemy, but at him. Who are you? she demanded. The journey back to the landing zone was conducted in tense silence. Major Veron had been captured, bound in restraints designed for neural disruptors, a traitor, exposed but not yet broken. The remaining squad members moved in a modified formation. With Soren now openly taking point alongside Commander Thorn, Krell walked between them, occasionally brushing against Soren's leg in a gesture that seemed almost affectionate. The neural connection that had formed in the canyon remained, a phantom presence at the edge of his consciousness. "Captain Soren Vale," Thorn said finally, breaking the silence. "Special operations, presumed killed in action during the Ganymede incident 5 years ago." Soren glanced at her, unsurprised she had pieced it together. "My death was convenient. For Central Intelligence, certainly." Her voice held no accusation, merely professional assessment. "They turned you into a ghost operative. Someone needed to track the information leaks. Too many coalition operations were being compromised." Behind them, Isha maintained communication silence, monitoring Veron, while the rest of the squad processed the revelations about both the Major and their supposed technician. "You should have trusted me with the truth," Thorn said, her implants pulsing softly as she processed battle data. "I could have helped. You were a suspect," Soren replied simply. "Until we could clear you." They crested a ridge, the landing zone visible in the valley below. The extraction vessel had already arrived, its engines idling as it waited for their approach. "What happens now?" Thorn asked, halting at the ridge's edge. "Do you disappear again? Become someone else's technician?" Or Soren considered the question. For 5 years, he had existed as a shadow, moving from assignment to assignment, his identity changing with each mission. The weight of that existence suddenly felt heavier than any power cell he had carried. "That depends," he said carefully. "On what?" "On whether there's a place for Captain Vale in the Coalition again." Thorn studied him, her silver eyes reflecting the alien sunset. "Your record was exemplary before Ganymede. The squad could use someone with your ... unique perspective." It was as close to an invitation as she would offer. A few meters away, Isha approached, her wound properly treated now, the bloodstain on her uniform a reminder of their shared battle. "Central Intelligence has confirmed the extraction," she reported professionally, though her eyes lingered on. "Soren Varen will be transported directly to headquarters for interrogation." "And your assignment, Specialist Nomari?" Thorn asked, a knowing edge to her voice. Isha straightened. "Technically complete, Commander. Though I've submitted a request for permanent reassignment to your squad." "Request granted," Thorn replied without hesitation. "I find myself suddenly appreciative of personnel who are exactly what they appear to be." As they descended toward the extraction vessel, Soren found himself walking beside Isha, their hands occasionally brushing in a contact that could have been accidental, but wasn't. "So," she said quietly, "that kiss during the firefight, ... Poor timing," he acknowledged. "But I'm told I have issues with appropriate moment selection." "I don't know," she replied, a smile playing at her lips. "It certainly motivated me to stay alive." The squad reached the landing zone, forming up around the vessel's ramp. Krell moved to stand between Soren and Thorn, its massive head swinging. Between them, as if unable to decide where its loyalty now belonged. "An interesting problem," Thorn observed, watching the creature's confusion. "The neural bond was supposed to be exclusive." "Perhaps it still is," Soren suggested. "It's not in the way the scientists intended." He placed his hand on Krell's neural port, feeling the now familiar connection, then guided the creature back. "Toward Thorn. He's yours, Commander. Always has been." "And yet," she replied, accepting the beast's return, "he recognized something in you that I missed." She extended her arm in a warrior's greeting. "Welcome back from the dead, Captain Vale." As the extraction vessel lifted off, carrying them away from the rust-colored landscape of Neridian Prime, Soren felt the weight of deception lifting from his shoulders. Beside him, Isha's hand found his in the dimness of the cargo hold. She whispered about that second kiss, ... For the first time in 5 years, Soren Vale smiled without calculation or pretense. No longer a ghost, no longer weak in the eyes of those around him, simply a warrior reclaiming his place in the world, one truth at a time. The ship broke atmosphere, leaving behind the planet where one life had ended and another had begun.